It's episode 40 of the Pop Culture Experience, and honestly, not exactly how we expected episode 40 might be. You know how I am with my milestone episodes. I like to celebrate them. I'm always surprised when I make it another 10, and so, today there was a bit of a different plan as to what the show might look like, but given the news of the last couple days, things had to take a bit of a change, and haven't had this on the pop culture experience, or the podcast, I should probably say, yet to date. So there was obviously the passing of Chadwick Boseman. Now, a very popular actor, very notable roles that he's played, but maybe none more so, at least none more so that relate to this podcast than Black Panther. Now, it was... There's those... This is going to be a pretty loose episode. You know how these ones are with me normally? Pretty loose, when I just sort of talk crap for a period of time. This is not going to be much different, because this one's very much just sort of just feeling it out and seeing where it goes. But so the news was very strange, because as far as I knew, and it seems largely the case, nobody knew that he was sick. And it was one of those really secret things. That's happened a couple times. I can think of one other notable one where I've been really struck by a death that just totally caught me off guard, and that was David Bowie, another big pop culture death. That one was also kept secret. Nobody knew he was sick. And so it's those ones where, especially Chadwick Boseman, who was 43 when he died, you just assume, well, they're fine. You just assume it's not even on your radar. Like when you... I don't know, it's always unexpected when somebody dies. But when you see that news, your mind goes one of two ways normally. It's either, oh, man, that's a shame. I guess, that makes kind of sense, pretty old or whatever. Or it's shock. It's just shock and probably devastation. And I'm not sitting here parading about as the biggest Black Panther fan in the world, no. But this guy represented a lot more than that. And I think it was this weird thing. When I saw the news, my mind sort of went straight to everyone I felt really sorry for, as I sort of related to them as how I would feel being in their position, as losing the hero. Like this guy represents a lot of, childhood heroes to people. So let's start back. I mean, his first biggest role was 2013 in the movie 42, where he played Jackie Robinson, the first black baseballer. So, I mean, from there, he brought that character back to life and educated them, a whole new generation, on this massively influential, important, black icon. So it started there. And then, it progressed. He then went on to play James Brown in Get On Up. I think that was, 2014? Yeah, a year later. James Brown, I mean, I don't need to go into that, do I? Massively influential in pop culture, music. So he sort of had this knack of, I'm going to take these stories which are important in, African-American culture, and there's something you do, right? When you make a movie about a person, sort of a biopic, you can have statues, you can have whatever you want around the world of these people. I mean, what is there? There's George Washington statues in America. Hell, AFL, there's, Ron Barassi statues at the MCG. It's, it's cool. And it does immortalize these people. I think that's the right word. But when something's put on film, and there's a film version of something, a movie, that brings a story to the masses, to the mainstream, it solidifies that person's historical impact, and their importance in culture and in society. So he did that with those two characters, but there's without a doubt no more important role that he brought to a whole race of people, to a whole generation of people, and to a society that probably really didn't fully understand how much it was needed until that movie came out, was Black Panther, the first black superhero, lead superhero. I heard Mark Henry, who's a former WWE wrestler, he's an African-American, he was sort of very insistent on saying, look, it's not the first black superhero, it's the first lead in a movie. That's big. So, and like, you know, you hear a lot of people, when news like this comes out, a lot of people seem to fall back on that. It's not criticism, but people kind of go, oh yeah, like, yeah, that's sad as, but you know, he just played a character in these movies. And it's like, yeah, I understand. I understand that thinking. Like, a lot of people lean on well, it was an actor. It's a sad story, but you know, the character he played wasn't real. I've heard a lot of that. And then there's always these negative assholes online that want to shit on, you know, people when they're down. And those attacks aren't even on him. They're on fans. Maybe you listening to this. Maybe you're a big Black Panther fan and you have seen those trolls on Twitter. And you're kind of like, well, why do that? And I don't know. And people do. People like that, look at this situation, they go, well, yeah, he played a character. People are all mourning him like he was that character, like he was the superhero to these people when he was just an actor. Yeah, okay, I get that, right? But where you're wrong is this. A superhero is somebody that instills like sort of hope in somebody. You look at Superman, gives a sense of hope. You look at Batman. People love Batman so much. I've spoken about this. Spoke about it last week with Heath, I think. They love him so much because they can relate to him. He's human. He doesn't have superpowers, but he represents them at their best. Or depending their worst, depending how you look at Batman. But at their best. If we were to be our best selves and not limit ourselves, we could be that. And that's what Black Panther did for a generation of people, multiple generations of people who had never experienced that. So for me, right, I remember when Black Panther first came out, and I'm the first to admit, I felt like I was missing something. With the hype that there was, I walked out of the movie and I was like, yeah, it was fine. Why is everyone acting like this is an Oscar-worthy film? I don't understand. I thought it was a good superhero movie. What's happened? What have I missed? What I missed was I had obviously led a very sheltered life to that point where I didn't understand the significance that a movie like that had on a whole culture, on a whole, as I said before, numerous generations of people who have never had the opportunity to see themselves on that screen. And I never even really thought of myself in that way. I'd never really considered the fact that what I do when I go to, you know, a Captain America movie, an Iron Man movie, there's something where you look up there and you go, you do relate to the people, but beyond that, there's something that happens if you are an African American person, at least from what I hear and what I'm trying to educate myself in, is that if you do go to an Iron Man movie, there is that barrier there's that distance between you and that character. You can only relate so much. In the same way, I can only relate so much if I go and see Birds of Prey, which was a largely Harley Quinn movie. Okay, it's a female-led movie. Now, there's stuff in that which I can't relate to being a male. And again, I think that's a fair comparison for me. I'm trying to draw a comparison for those out there that don't quite get what I'm saying. So when Black Panther came out, that was it. That was why it was so important to these people, was because he was the beacon of hope and the barrier breaker for these people that had felt like they never were going to see somebody representing them on that screen. Same way you look at Into the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales. Now, when Miles Morales was first created as another Spider-Man, that was huge in comic books, let alone when the animated film came out. When the animated film came out, there's a reason why that was such a highly grossing film. Not only was it really, really good, but there was people that were eager for it, people that were calling for it. The same way when Wonder Woman came out, there was 50% of more than 50% of the population that were sick of just watching the same old men on that screen portraying superheroes instead of a woman, a female-led movie. There is a market for it. So when you question why people care so much about this, somebody passing away that portrayed a character in a movie, you have to consider what that person brought to them, their lives, the joy that it brought. I saw this tweet. It's been circulating. You've probably seen it. I'll maybe put it on the podcast page. But it was, I don't know if it was opening night of Endgame or if it was the second night or whatever it was. It was something very close to the start. So you're getting some of the most passionate of passionate fans in there. And it's the scene at the end. Spoilers, if you still haven't seen it, you shouldn't listen to the podcast because clearly you're not up to date. And this is going to have a spoiler of the end of Endgame. 3, 2, 1, spoilers are coming now. So Thanos is about to beat the original Avengers. As we know, at the end of Infinity War, Thanos had snapped away the majority of the add-ons of the Avengers over the years. So that was left. It was, Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Hulk. I think Hulk was there. And whoever else was there. Maybe Black Widow. No, Black Widow was not there. And just as you think Thanos is about to win, they all return through those portholes. You remember that, the gold portholes that appear. And you have the whole Cap on your left, Falcon comes in. But the first person you see step back through was Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther. And he's the first one to return to the battlefield. And the reaction in the cinema of him walking back through said everything. And I'm not making this point to be like, oh, they were really excited to see just him. I'm making the point that this is the importance of these movies for those that don't understand. And it relates back to Chadwick Boseman. But for those that don't understand why people care so much about a friggin' superhero movie or a character in a comic book, a fictional character, it's because of the joy it brings. Go and watch this video, okay? You can search it anywhere. And the joy, the utter joy that people experience in that moment. And it's the same that they would have experienced when they first saw Black Panther and they're sitting in that cinema and they see their hero for the first time. There aren't many words to describe it. And that is why I look at it and think, everyone should have this in their life. Everyone should have something they care about this that much. Georgia often says to me, she'll say, like, we're building my Lego Batmobile at the moment, right? And I'll be talking to her. I'll be saying something about the 89 Keaton film, blah, 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 blah. Again, obviously, I'm not realizing, but she's seeing me being very passionate about what I'm talking about, very excited by the whole thing. And she will say things like, oh, I wish I had something that excited me that much, that got me that emotionally invested, something that meant that much to me. And until that point, I'd never really noticed it or really thought anything about that. But it's so true. Because when you have things like that in your life, it makes life more manageable. It does. The same reason I watch wrestling. It's the male soap opera. Okay? It's larger than life characters that you get to watch have these fictional storylines, but you get to see them be triumphant. Because the good guy largely wins. Or if the good guy loses, he gets his revenge and wins at the end because he represents what is good and what you should do and how you should live your life. The same thing applies in a superhero film. At the end of the day, the superhero wins. And it gives you not only hope, but gives you something to aspire to and motivate you. And it was funny because one of the first thoughts I had when I saw Chadwick Boseman die was obviously the outpouring of just devastation on Twitter, all social media. And it was like people that were at this real loss. And it was something I haven't had to relate to yet. I haven't had an absolute idol pass away. And again, I sort of touched on it before. There's a lot of that people not only judging others for feeling so sad, but also those who do feel sad, feeling a bit silly for it. People being like, I feel like I can't talk about this. I shouldn't feel silly. I should feel a bit silly for being this sad over somebody I never met. And I've heard a couple of people say it, that you shouldn't have to apologize. Just because you didn't meet the person doesn't mean that you accepted them into your life as somebody important and part of your identity. So that's what a lot of people do. And in a year like we're experiencing right now, I don't even know if half of what I've said has made any sense to this point. It's just sort of all just blurting out. In a year like we're experiencing, right, I think I've watched a Batman film. Oh, what are we in? August? I would say 3 times so far this year I've put on a Batman film. Or some form of if we're going some form of Batman, if we're talking like animated series, whatever, more than that, probably 10 times throughout the year. And why I do that is the comfort that it provides, that escape, the mental escape of getting out of the shit that we're dealing with and getting into this world which you love because of the character that lives in it. And what the feeling they give you. So I've done that numerous times, right? And it really struck me yesterday that for a lot of people, that's Black Panther. That's their Batman. Okay, I'm Batman. Well, I'm not Batman. Wish I was Batman. But Batman to me is what Black Panther is to them. And there's only been one of them. Like, the thing with Batman is there's been how many people have played it? 5, 6, I don't know. Not important. The point is they've only just got this. They've just had this moment in their history where they go, that was one of the best things I ever had, was when that movie first premiered and I got to see somebody representing me on that screen. That's my movie. That's my comfort movie now. You know those movies you got? I spoke about this with Gigi another week. Those things you've got, the TV shows or the movies you've got that you put on and it's like a warm blanket. Makes you feel like everything's all right. That's why we watch superhero movies. Larger than life people saving the world. So, to a lot of people experiencing this year for what it is and needing those outlets, needing to have those things that they can escape through, whatever that may be, to a lot of people, that probably was Black Panther. And now, that's been tainted that little bit for the time being. So in the time that they really need it the most, it's probably the hardest time for them to go and put that movie on because they're reminded, again, of the pain and sorrow that they're probably feeling right now, having lost their hero, their idol. I saw another photo on Twitter. This one's done the rounds. There's been actually a lot of them. This is where kids are fantastic. Kids are they're so compassionate, kids, for the most part. You get some little shits, some bullies. But I've seen these photos of these kids who are obviously big Marvel fans, right? And they've got all the toys. And admittedly, I don't know if this is just how it's worked out, but I've seen a mix of people, different races, different backgrounds, whatever. Kids coming out with all their toys and holding like a ceremony for the Black Panther toy. Freaking gonna choke me up. It's stuff like that makes you realize the significance. So there's kids out there right now who are devastated. They've lost their hero, lost their idol, and this is probably their first experience with loss as a whole. You know, they might still have all their grandparents. You know, God forbid their parents. They haven't experienced loss, so not only, you know, I don't know. They're not able to see their friends. They're not able to do a lot of things at the moment. Now, the kids are holding ceremonies with their toys, funeral ceremonies for one of their superheroes, for their toy that represents their hero, which, you know, they probably watch the movie for all the time. So, when you judge, remember that, because there's people out there that are hurting massively. And I just want to reiterate, in a year where people need their escapes, to have what could be one of their biggest escapes and one of their biggest things to look up to and reassure them, give them, like, you know, hope and strength and power and stuff, that's tainted. They can't watch that for the next little while because it's, you know, because of the situation, because of where we are. Now, look, I say all that, and obviously I've just harped on the character of Black Panther, and that's one thing. He shouldn't be remembered for that. Of course not. But, you know, it's two things. You want to touch on when something's got so much significance to this particular show and this genre, you can't not. It's by far the most impactful thing he'd probably done to this point. Now, this is a guy that was also donating to numerous charities. One of the last videos that went up of him was obviously supporting a charity. It's sad because you think 2016, diagnosed, right? Colon cancer. And I think he was stage 3 when he was diagnosed and progressed into stage 4. In that time, he pretty much gave us everything to do with Black Panther. I want to look it up. Hang on. I want to... So Black Panther came out 2018. Yeah, so 2016 he first appeared as Black Panther in Civil War. Okay? So in the time of him being diagnosed, let's say... We'll start from Captain America. Gods of Egypt was also released 2016. So there's that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 films, one that's still yet to be released. He completed in a 4-year period when he was battling an aggressive form of cancer. So, geez, that is... Yeah. You look at that, I'm not that courageous. Not at all. The other way to look at that as well is just continuing to be a role model and sort of a inspiration to other people that are sick. You know, you look at that and a lot of people just give up. They get that sick, they go, well, you know, it's too hard. I'm just going to stop here and just, you know, lay down on my sword. But no. Continue to press forward, continue to live life, and that's what he obviously did. And you saw that through punching out 10 films in that time and not slowing down, and making just as important cultural films as he was. So, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where you sort of just sit here and you don't really have the words for. Again, it's one of those deaths that everyone is pretty rattled by. People are walking past outside. They're all just got no idea I'm trying to do a podcast here. Bloody, you know, an important podcast too, episode 40, but whatever. Yeah, I'm a bit lost for words. The whole thing struck me a lot. There's those moments that you always remember where you were when you found out that somebody died. There was Michael Jackson That was a big one. Who else was there? God, well, David Bowie. This. There's others that aren't springing to mind, but they're three that really... Oh, Kobe Bryant. Remember where I was. And that's another thing. Bloody hell. Same year, 2020. If there was ever a year to, go fuck yourself, 2020, it's you. This is beyond a joke. The year was a write-off, but at this point, you just want to demand a full do-over. Nothing good's come of it. I can think one good thing that came of this year, and it's my cousin Tim had a baby. You remember Tim from Tim and Dan? He had a baby, and that's literally the only good thing I can think of. Sorry if I had a moment with you this year that was really good, but it's there's a lot of people hurting right now. A lot of people very sad. A lot of people who need help getting through this year, and unfortunately, they've had the add-ons of heroes and legends and idols being lost. Not only was there Kobe Bryant, but now, unfortunately, Chadwick Boseman. And the work he did, as I said, the number 42, or 42 is the movie title. If you haven't seen that, if you're sitting there thinking, maybe I'll, pay my respects through going and watching some old movies of his, watch 42. It's a fantastic movie. I just flicked it on. I was in America at one point and, just in a motel. Motel. Sounds like I was, staying in a pub / motel on the side of a freeway. It was kind of nice. I think it was a Holiday Inn. There you go. It was late at night. Couldn't sleep. Been a big day at Disneyland. And was just flicking through the TV, exhausted but kind of awake, and stumbled across that movie. Wow. That is a great movie. I had no idea of the story of Jackie Robinson. And again, an example of, by doing that movie, introducing it to somebody and educating somebody on that really important story that otherwise may never have known about it. I'm not a big baseball guy. Haven't seen James Brown Get On Up. I'm actually thinking I might watch it though. I think I will. And honestly, put on Black Panther the other night. Put it on and just sort of, it was a weird feeling. It always is when you do that. But I put it on and, you find ways to pay your respects. And it's funny what you do when somebody like that dies, who you aren't able to actually pay your respects to the family or anything like that, and you're not quite sure how to process it at all. And so you do these weird things. Like I remember, again, when Michael Jackson died, I went out and bought all his CDs. Like it was just my way of dealing with it. And people will have their ways, similar to how those kids had their way of getting out their Marvel toys and doing a little ceremony in honor of their superhero, Black Panther. So, yeah, look, pretty somber episode 40 of the Pop Culture Experience. It is a somewhat short one. It didn't feel right to really come on here and talk a bit about this and then jump off and talk about a bunch of other things like this didn't happen. Again, learning how to navigate these sorts of episodes. Hopefully they are few and far between because it's, devastating news. Devastating news. Caught me off guard, and I imagine it caught a lot of you off guard. So, look, somebody like this that impacts the world of pop culture this much deserves, I guess this is what this is, a tribute episode. Chadwick Boseman, known best for his roles as Jackie Robinson, James Brown in Get On Up, and obviously Black Panther, which relates to us the most here on the Pop Culture Experience. Look, if you are feeling pretty shit at the moment and you feel like this is, that sort of final straw, that final kick in the guts where you just go, it's all a bit just, I don't even know what to do anymore. Reach out to people, your friends, family, there's support services out there, your lifelines, things like that. Look, sorry to end on such a somber note, but, it's what these moments are. You try and just absorb them and mourn them and process the feelings, and hopefully at some point we can, pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and continue to uphold the importance that is Black Panther and everything else Chadwick Boseman brought us. So we'll leave it there for this episode. Look, on a little bit of a lighter note, got some things in the works at the moment, some episodes that are coming up. Old mate Justin, you remember Justin, he's been on the texty text to me just about a few ideas about some episodes that we might have coming up, so look out for them. They're coming in the not-so-distant future. Little hint, space/aliens in pop culture, sort of around that area of conversation, of genre. So that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to getting into that with Justin. Also got another one coming up, another debut coming up, some new guests. Look, there's plenty coming up. Again, wasn't what we were expecting to do this week on the podcast. Just felt like an episode to strip it back, process the news, and, we'll reset next week, and we'll push forward. And look, hopefully you're doing all right. Obviously, you can get the podcast, all these by now, YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, wherever you get it. And I'm going to leave it there, guys. Have a good week. Look after yourself. Go watch Black Panther. If not, 42 or Get On Up. Maybe wait for Get On Up. Feels a little bit more, James Brown was like very up and about. Go watch Black Panther. Inspiring, uplifting. Remember your hero. Remember Chadwick Boseman. Rest in peace.